between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to FBC Radio Live. It is, what is today, Wednesday? Thursday? Wednesday?
It is
right?
Wednesday.
Something like that. Yeah, Wednesday. That's right. Okay, so we are here. We are live. We got a little bit of an abbreviated show, but we're gonna stray from the normal. Okay, Mike? We're actually gonna talk some basketball today. That's right.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy. We don't normally do it, but we're going to bring on John Sapichetti here in a minute because he's going to kind of carry the load here for us when it comes to basketball talk. But up. Before we do that, hold on. How you doing, buddy?
la. I'm doing well, bud. I am doing well. Can't kick the show off without the la-la-las. And
Tradition.
it'll be great to talk some hoops today. We haven't done that in quite a while here on FBC Radio Live. But you know what? Anything and everything is possible here.
Yes.
I said possible. And it'll be good. And we've got our hoop guru here,
Yes.
and John Sapichetti on in a moment to kind of guide us through what is the NBA playoffs right now. Shaping up to be a pretty good one too.
Yeah, it is. And look, we sometimes we wonder how we're going to fill the time every day on the show, and then it seems like we never have enough time to fill everything that we need to talk about. And it's not that for a lack of trying talking about basketball, but look, admittedly, it's not my strongest from an analytical standpoint. So that's why we like to bring on John, and he's going to help us kind of sort through what's going on right now. Although, Mike, I did watch some of the Celtics game last night. I did do that, and that Jason Tatum, he's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah, but still amazes me that people still drag him through the proverbial mud. Now Tatum, 50 points last night in a game that not a lot of Celtics fans probably thought they would win. And if everybody's being honest, I had my doubts about whether or not they were going to win it. This team has been wildly inconsistent all season long, but Fitzy had a great quote on Twitter where he said, "This team is like the Godfather 3 of basketball Celtics teams. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in." And it really is. It's perfect. As a Godfather aficionado, I applaud that statement because it truly is. And at this point, you have to start looking at the Celtics now and saying, well, you know what? They're going to be going up against Brooklyn. It's going to be an emotional series for them, no question about it. I think they match up pretty well. I'm really starting to come around a little bit. And what can you say about Tatum? 32 of those 50 points come in the second half. You can't. Those are the moments that you can't discount him as being one of the stars in this league. You can't discount him as being one of the big factors now in the Eastern Conference playoffs, because you're looking at teams now and saying, okay, these guys are the ones that are going to step up in the biggest moments. And Tatum had that moment last night. He's had some of them up until this point, but that's really a defining career moment. When your back's up against the wall, can your guy carry you? Jason Tatum showed that he can do that last night.
Yeah, and look, there's no Jaylen Brown, so he's the guy. It's very clear. He's the guy regardless of who else is on the court with him, Jason Tatum. And look, this is it's funny because obviously, given that the sports run concurrently, the NHL and the NBA, generally the playoffs are running about the same time, and that's what we're getting here. And when you think of it from a Bruins and Celtics standpoint, both these teams seem to pass back and forth which team is closest to a championship title here in Boston. I feel like we've had this conversation for 5 years running now.
Yeah.
And multiple times, this is like a game that has 6 lead changes. All right. Multiple times in that time frame. And oftentimes throughout a singular season, that title shifts back and forth between the Bruins and the Celtics. I think early on, maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe the Celtics are primed for another run, but they kind of underachieved, and obviously injuries and some struggles throughout have put them in a position where, okay, maybe Eastern Conference Finals aren't the goal here. It'll be nice, but maybe you can't expect it given that they're the 7th seed, and again, they've drawn an opponent like the Brooklyn Nets in the first, in the first round. Whereas you look at the Bruins, who are going back home tonight, have a chance to go up 2-1. They've looked like a far different team after the trade deadline, and by far different, I mean far better. And so that's changed expectations too. At one point in the middle of the season, I didn't see them in any way getting out of the second round. Now, perhaps maybe it's my fandom taking over a little bit, but also just the changes that have been made have inspired me a little bit with this team. And the Celtics again. I think it's not quite to that level with the Celtics. Last night was fantastic, and again, I mean, the legend of Jason Tatum is going to continue to grow in this city, and obviously in the NBA, and only to be surpassed by Deuce Tatum, which we'll see how long that takes. I don't think it's going to take too long for his popularity to surpass his father's, but the Celtics team could have a fun run, and if they can compete and stay competitive against the Nets in this series, win or lose, I think that will go a long way for how this team changes in the future. So, like in terms of next season, the season after, can they remain a title contender, or are they going to have to take a different route in terms of building this team?
Yeah, and I think, what a change from 2 weeks ago. We were talking about when Jaylen Brown went down, are the Celtics going to have to make some sweeping off-season moves? And I was here critical of them and saying that I believe that they did. I thought that they needed to maybe go in a different direction, take a look at some other options out there, knowing full well that Tatum is the future of this franchise, but wondering if the coaching staff was going to be, something that could sustain this team going forward. You down the stretch, you lose 10 out of 15 games. That's not a very good, vote of confidence. So in this regard, you're looking at the game last night, obviously era of good feelings right now. Everybody's feeling good about the Celtics, and you should. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm not going to rain on anyone's parade, but how they perform in this series against the Brooklyn Nets is going to be very, very telltale. If the Celtics, like you said, can remain competitive, I don't think they have to win this series for it to be a success. Being said, Celtics are going out there to win. They're not just going out there to make a good fight or to, to keep things close. They want to win this series. Any team that's out there wants to do it. Use competitive fire in this team last night, especially in the second half, that proves that they're going to be capable of doing that. Brooklyn is a tough team. This is not going to be an easy series. They're stacked from top to bottom. They've got superstars at the top of the heap. They've got role players that know how to do their jobs. They've got the ability to get well coached. So this is going to be a tough series. But like you said, if the Celtics can keep this close, if they remain competitive, and they show that this is a team that maybe hit its stride a little late this year, but is going to come back next year with a vengeance, then you're looking at some pretty interesting things down the line for the Boston Celtics. And maybe those sweeping changes that I thought they needed to make just a couple of weeks ago might not be, the way that they need to go this time around.
Yeah. And again, I mean, adjust your expectations, folks. Don't be disappointed if they, again, overachieve a bit and have a very strong series here. And if you have the privilege of watching us on either Twitter or Facebook or whatever, we got some of the highlights of Jason Tatum's 50 burger playing up on the screen. But talking about another 50 burger, a 58 burger, actually, we got our friend John Sapichetti on the phone. You like how I transition there? It's pretty good.
He said that, John, not me.
Mike wrote it for me. Mike wrote it for me.
Okay.
He's my joke writer.
I accept it.
I accept it. Good. Well, I think what Tatum was trying to do, John, I'm gonna spin this in a positive manner. I think he was trying to honor you by getting to 58 points. He fell a little short. It's okay. It's all right. You got to save that energy for Brooklyn. But
Yep.
I do believe that he in a way was trying to honor you specifically by putting up 50.
Well, let's hope that Steph Curry doesn't try to do that tonight and get 58 on my Lakers, because that could be problematic. But
well, hey, speak for yourself. I mean,
I don't think LeBron will get 58, but I think he may, get 58 points, rebounds, and assists combined. Although that's a really high number. I mean, that's
well,
pretty
him. He's a pass first guy.
Well, he is among all those great scorers. He's the best passer among them.
I agree. He's a passer. But saying that he's a pass-first guy when he's led his team in shots every single year but one, I'm sorry. That's a little. I can't go with that. He's a great passer, not denying that, but calling himself a pass first guy, I think this is just another example of the old good LeBron pat on his own back that he likes to do.
He gets criticized for that, though, right? I mean, Skip Bayless and everybody else criticizes him for not
count Skip
trying
Bayless
to take the big shots. But a lot of people, even former players, like he doesn't have the killer instinct that Michael or Kobe had, and he's looking for someone else to get the game-winning shot. That's been a narrative, even though LeBron has more game-winning shots in the postseason than Jordan and Kobe combined, but I don't want to let facts get in the way. But let's talk about the Celtics. Yeah. I don't want to talk about LeBron because I think he's going to have a long playoff run. I don't think the Celtics are going to have a long playoff run here because this is a bad matchup, guys. Brooklyn is loaded. As long as James Harden is upright, they're going to be tough to beat because when he plays, they're 28-7. He's actually the MVP of that team. I'm not saying he's a better player than Kevin Durant, nor more spectacular than Kyrie Irving, but he's the MVP. Makes it all work because he makes Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving's jobs that much easier because he sets them up. He's the best passer of the three. They're going to be really difficult to beat, and Tatum's going to have to go out and put up 45, 50 in some of these games, and Kemba Walker's going to have to step up as well because I don't know who the third option is for the Celtics.
Well, real quick, I was going to say you mentioned Durant and all that, but you saw that play the other night. Was the behind the back pass that set up like it was pretty incredible, and that's what you're getting when you play the Brooklyn Nets. So it's a Harlem Globetrotters type matchup where you're like, okay, well they're gonna do a bunch of fancy stuff with the basketball. They're gonna be able to score the ball, and as I was telling Mike here right before you got on, I don't expect them to win this series, but if they can be competitive and push this series, that could go a long way in helping this team grow and hopefully evolve going into next season. Because again, I feel like we're getting dangerously close to just treading water here with this team, and you can argue that they might have already gotten to that point. So.
I will argue that. I think what happens is if this goes 5 games and they're competitive, then Wyc Grousbeck, Danny Ainge, and Brad Stevens will sit down and say, well, we didn't have Jaylen Brown, and we were devastated by COVID, more so than any other team in the league, and Kemba Walker couldn't play back-to-back nights, and Robert Williams was hurt quite a bit. So let's just run it back next year. We should be better. Look, I think they need to make some drastic changes here, starting with Marcus Smart. I don't know if that's really a drastic change, but I think he has to go, only because he's been here longer than any other player, and he feels, at least he puts that vibe out, that he's an equal to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. He's not. I mean, in the pecking order, it's Jason Tatum is your star, Jaylen Brown is your number 2 guy, Kemba Walker, if healthy, is your 3rd guy. Now, that's a good big 3. And Marcus Smart is a role player. And remember, Kendrick Perkins last week talked about that. Perkins is the perfect guy to talk about that because Perkins was that role player in that championship run with the Celtics, where he was a defender or a rebounder. He set picks. He was the blue-collar guy, the tough guy. Kendrick Perkins didn't want to be put on the same mantle as Kevin Garnett or Paul Pierce or Ray Allen. He knew what his role was. I don't think Marcus Smart knows what his role is. I mean, even last night, how many ill-advised threes did he take? In transition, I'm like, man, you're not Steph Curry, Marcus Smart. Do some other things.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, if anything, you move on from Marcus Smart, you release this, I guess, loyal band of Celtics fans, and when I say loyal, I think it's a little bit beyond loyal. It's a little bit more obsessive. Like, I like Marcus Smart. I'm not sitting here railing on him. I know some people take the other route and just say he sucks or this, that, and the other. No, I think he provides a valuable role, but. Something I'm going to kind of wrap this up into wrestling and bring it back here. This is how I'm going to do it. Mike and I yesterday were talking about the Stone Cold Steve Austin documentary. And he made a comment about his particular character that it got to a point where there's nothing more they can do with it. Now you think about that in terms of Marcus Smart and the Celtics. Well,
yeah,
how many Tommy points can he get? Before you're like, okay, wait a minute. Tommy points are great. Hustle plays are great. When is it going to translate to victories on the court? And I'm not just talking about, beating up bad teams. I'm talking about beating the good teams and consistently beating the good teams. So this isn't an anti-Marcus Smart comment. It's just more of a, you know what? Sometimes it's just it's time to move on and try something else. And I think maybe they're at that point with Smart and perhaps maybe some of these other Celtics. Mike?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I still think the biggest issue with the Celtics is talent drain, and that falls right on the desk of Danny Ainge. I mean, 2 years ago, I know they lost in 5 games to Milwaukee, but look at that roster. That was one of the deepest, most talented rosters in the NBA. Now, it didn't fit, so maybe you blame Brad Stevens, you blame the players. I mean, Kyrie Irving is, a tough fit anywhere. We know he's very combustible. But they were loaded. I mean, Marcus Morris was their 8th guy. Yeah. And in Marcus Morris right now with the Clippers, a title contender, is probably their 4th best player. They were loaded talent-wise, and everyone's gone, and they really didn't get anything back in return. So now you've got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, who's hurt, and Marcus Smart. That's all that's left from that team. And it's a talent drain. It always turns me off when people go, well, the Celtics are much better than this team they're playing. They should beat them. Well, They went 36-36 this year for a reason. Famous football coach says you are what your record says you are. And they were a 500 team this year. Maybe they were a little better than that. They could have played a little bit better, but they're not at the same level as the Nets, the Sixers, or the Bucks right now.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry, I want to give you a little bit of time here. Get those vocal cords working.
No, I completely agree with what John is saying, and I understand exactly what he means by that. Right now, you are what your record says you are. Bill Parcells was, the guy that said that very eloquently, or not eloquently, I guess, depending on your point of view. But no, I mean, you do really. It really shows when you put your product out on the court and you see exactly your team is capable of doing. That to me is what is going to define this Celtics team. This is a very tough matchup without any question. I think Ian and I both acknowledge that. But I do agree with Ian though in that respect. If they can keep this competitive for some way that they can and really make a strong fight, it does give hope coming into the season. But changes, yeah, John, you probably made a believer out of me a little bit more than I was at the beginning of the show. Maybe those changes or some changes are necessary because complacency could end up being an enemy of this team just as much as losing and really kind of the bottom dropping out. Sometimes that can even be worse. The one thing that we've learned in professional sports, sometimes the worst thing you can be is complacent.
I mean, is Danny Ainge a Supreme Court justice? Does he have the job for life? Is Brad Stevens a Supreme Court justice? Does he have the job for life? I mean, Bill Belichick had one losing season in the last 20, won 6 Super Bowls before that, and he got a lot of heat last season before free agency. What moves is he going to make? And this is a guy who's arguably the greatest coach in the history of the sport. Danny Ainge has produced 1 championship as a general manager, which during that time is the same as the Dallas Mavericks and the Toronto Raptors. So for some reason, he gets put on a pedestal in the city of Boston, and Bill Belichick people constantly want to complain about. And look, that's what we do. That's our job is to, parse through a lot of what goes on, and we can't just sit here and go, Bill Belichick, greatest coach ever. We're never going to question any of his moves. That would be kind of boring. But, don't forget, Danny Ainge has only been here 3 years less than Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick was hired in 2000, Danny Ainge in 2003. He's had this incredible run. I mean, in the meantime, the Red Sox have won 4 World Series with, 3 different general managers, 3 different managers, and all sorts of different players, and their ownership gets blasted on a daily basis. It's kind of a weird vibe, at least to me, that the Celtics have the good ship lollipop with especially the media that covers it. My God, NBC Sports Boston, other than Kendrick Perkins, I want to take my head and smash it into my window every time Brian Scalabrine opens his mouth.
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll tell you what. I think it was I saw something over the last 14, 15 years. Essentially, almost encompassing that entire time frame. Celtics have the most playoff wins of any franchise. Now, that can be looked at positively or negatively. I tend to land in the middle because, yeah, that's great and all, but if you have the most playoff wins, you should have a few more titles. That tells me that you never quite got over the hump. So I think that's obviously bought him some leverage. Gordon Hayward breaking his leg. I hate to bring it back to this, but in a way that ruined what could have been, and I'm not obviously you can't blame the front office for that. That's just a terrible thing that happened that I think really derailed this team. However, that was several years ago now. You know what I mean? I feel like you're leaning a little bit too much on that. Like, okay, let's cut them some slack. What are you going to do about this? And then you had that team that overachieved. The Isaiah Thomas team, and for some reason, those three factors I feel like weigh in a lot more than their more recent successes or failures. I mean, you think about some of those things. Okay, you could have done this. You had this great setup. You had Gordon Hayward. You had Kyrie Irving. You were going to do this, do that. No, it just didn't work out. But I feel like you're getting a little bit too much slack. You know what I mean? You've been given a little bit too much slack for that. Whereas, like, I think you should be getting criticized more for now underachieving. I mean, overachieving is great, but it only matters for that year. It doesn't buy you 10 years of equity. So,
yeah, and I think when you look at what this run has been, as you talked about, Ian, with Isaiah Thomas, the Bridges, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They lose to LeBron and the Cavaliers. Then they get back there 2 years later. They don't have Kyrie Irving. He's hurt, so he doesn't play in the postseason. And Gordon Hayward was out the entire year with that devastating injury, and they still got to Game 7 against the Cavaliers. And last year they got to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. They were probably a better squad than Miami, but Miami played better defense and stepped up and had that winning culture that the Celtics are trying to build on right now. So, yeah, it's just roster management has been god-awful. I mean, they knew they were going to lose Gordon Hayward last offseason. Why not, do a sign and trade with the Pacers, get Miles Turner and Dougie McDermott back in return, rather than a trade exception, which turned into Evan Fournier, who's missed like half the potential games he's played with COVID issues. That would have been a better move. Miles Turner is probably going to finish first or second team all defense in the NBA, and McDermott's arguably the worst defender in the league, but he's a great three-point shooter. Those two pieces would have helped this year. But Danny had to win the trade, 99-1. He can never win a trade 80-20. He's got to blow out the opposition. And, in the end, it didn't work out for the Celtics. Turner and McDermott would provide much needed depth here. And I also wonder if there's a disconnect between Stevens and Ainge in terms of what players they like. Like, Ainge wanted DeMarcus Cousins years ago and Stevens didn't. And, if there's a big gap there between these two, that could be an issue as well. I mean, in the end, it's the general manager that picks the players, but the coach does have to coach them. And maybe there's a little bit of a disagreement between those two guys.
I could see that. Real quick. Did either of you make the mistake of looking up Fournier's name as he suggested when he first came to the Celtics in Google?
Oh, no, I didn't. I remember it was a topic, though. Yeah,
I did. I don't want to repeat it. Let's just say if you're that curious, search his name on Google. I regret doing it, but I also want other people to regret it. And I know you can't resist yourself now.
Can I add this?
Oh, sure.
One thing over the last 15 years. Who has the most playoff wins in the NBA?
Yeah, we know. Yeah, the guy who jumps around from team to team when he knows that he can't go through a rebuild. Because,
when he leaves that team, they're really bad.
Well, I mean, see, you want to. Okay, John. See, now you're opening up the door here because now, here's the thing. It's like
kind of like Tom Brady, right?
No, not even close. Not even close.
I'm giving him credit, and I supported his move to Tampa.
No, but talk about false narratives here, and the whole idea, like the moment LeBron leaves, things go to hell, like as if his departure is the sole reason things go to hell. No, he leaves as things are going to hell. I mean, that Cleveland team when he left, that was going to be a bad team, and he saw it. He was like, all right. Later.
Not if he stayed there. No, if they stayed there, they would have been back to the finals. Yeah,
they would have been
to the finals quite a bit.
They would have been a better team than they were. But I mean, I laugh at this idea that 100% of him leaving caused these teams to crumble and fall into disarray. And I'm like, It's not true. I mean, yeah, of course, you have one of the best players or the best player leave your team. Yeah, your team's going to get worse. Obviously, that's not that's obvious. I mean, look at the Patriots. The best quarterback in the league leaves. They have a losing season for the first time since
We'll probably
2000.
see that in Green Bay, right? We'll see that in Green Bay, I'm sure, if Rodgers leaves. Although you don't think that will be that much of an impact, but I do. I think if he leaves Green Bay, they're a 9-8 team.
Look, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is on the level of Tom Brady, but I'd never deny that he's not a great quarterback. I think they're the best two in the league, and that's despite the wonderfulness of Patrick Mahomes. And look, to see now we're shifting towards football a little bit, because now I'm thinking about
we were going to avoid this. Ian.
Well, you know what? You open the door with LeBron. Yeah, it's just it's a 3 degrees of separation. It doesn't take us long to get here.
I'm like the matador with the cape, and you're like the bull chasing me.
I am wearing my red Bushwood shirt right now.
Well,
so
and the thing is, I'm praising Tom Brady.
No,
we're agreed. I'm like, Tom, go ahead to Tampa. God bless you. I supported him 100% in that move. They didn't want him anymore. What's the guy supposed to do? He still wants to play football.
Well,
God bless you. You put the time in.
That we don't disagree with. Like I said, I mean, I wish he was still a Patriot, but I'm not someone who feels betrayed and left at the altar because he decided to move on. No, I do. I think I think when I talk about LeBron, I'm not saying he's not the best player in the league. In that sense, and this is a lot. This is how I view Brady. Does LeBron win the MVP every year? No, of course not.
No, he hasn't in a while, actually.
Yeah, exactly. But are you going to sit here and tell me that he's not been the best player in the league for all, if not a majority of those seasons that he didn't win? Yeah, of course. And that's how I feel about Tom Brady. So as much as Aaron Rodgers wants to win an MVP, Patrick Mahomes wants to win an MVP, Brady's still doing it. LeBron's still doing it. Like,
you can make a case that LeBron and Brady are here, and I'm holding them side by side because you can't see me yet. We'll figure that out. I did upgrade my iOS, so maybe you could see my lovely face going forward with my beautiful blue background that I've got in my room. But the Aaron Rodgers to me is a lot like Kevin Durant, like the talent's indisputable, and sometimes they can be kind of weird. Right? I mean, both guys are kind of passive aggressive, and no one denies the talent. I mean, we think Kevin Durant is maybe the most versatile scorer the league's ever seen, and we think Aaron Rodgers is such a great passer, great quarterback, checks all the boxes. But they're similar in that sense. I just think it's the drive that Brady and LeBron have, that they've just kind of reached a status that they're unimpeachable.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
LeBron. I mean, Nikola Jokic is going to win the MVP this year. I think he should, and no one outside of maybe Denver thinks he's the best player in the league. He's not. I mean, he's
that's not an insult. That's not meant as being an insult.
No.
And in this case, a lot of people take that when I say I tweeted something before it was official, but I said something along the lines of, Aaron Rodgers deserves to win the MVP, but Tom Brady's still the best quarterback in the league. And I mean, I felt that was proven twofold, throughout the playoffs, and obviously, by just any objective view, you're like, okay, the guy's still the best. But like, the difference I see in LeBron and Brady, and this isn't necessarily a knock on LeBron, is like I think Brady has been better at his profession. Like, he has a stronger case, in my opinion, as being I think his case is more slam dunk that he's the greatest quarterback or player
I'll buy that.
in history than LeBron. But again, there's the similarities are pretty uncanny when it comes to coverage and the view and just their overall career arc. I think there's differences in terms of individuals and all that we could spend an hour debating. I don't want to, so we're not going to bring that up. But for the most part, they're the same guy. They've been the best player in their respective league for the better part of a decade. I say, look, the moment Peyton Manning, and this wasn't because he left that Brady became the best quarterback in the league, he was becoming hands down the best quarterback in the league as Peyton Manning was going out. But I think for a large chunk of their career, they were handing that title back and forth.
Sure.
So
no, without question.
So I think
I'll buy right into your thing that Brady. I mean, who's the second best quarterback? I always put Montana there.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody can debate that anymore. I think LeBron's the greatest player ever over Michael Jordan closely,
Mhm.
but most people think Jordan's the greatest player. I mean, there's no Michael Jordan to Tom Brady. Like,
Yeah.
there's nobody that measured up to Michael Jordan, so that makes it interesting. And then it's always tough to compare these different sports because
Yeah, it's really silly to begin with. You know?
that's why I always put LeBron and Michael Jordan 1-2 in basketball because they're also elite defenders.
Well,
You
they
know,
and
LeBron when he feels like it can be, and Michael Jordan was. So that makes it, when you start talking about, Magic and Bird and these guys, they were phenomenal, man, but they couldn't defend like these two guys
Mhm.
have.
Well, and that's the thing too, and that's why I love the when you try to cross sport debate, and then you get the answer like, "Well, football is a team game." Well, so is basketball.
So is basketball, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's silly. It's I love that, and I laugh every time people say that. I'm like, yeah, that's why it's called a team sport. Of course, it's a team game. It's called a team sport. Like, I mean, I don't know what great point you're trying to make here, but
we can debate Tiger or Jack Nicklaus. We can debate Roger Federer or anybody else in tennis and go from there because those are individual sports. But then that's also gets detailed into, how was the era that they were dominating in, and I mean, you make a look that Tiger was playing in a deeper field than maybe Jack was, and I think Federer is the greatest player because he could win on all surfaces. Nadal, I think 85% of his Grand Slams are on clay, which is awesome, but Federer's won on grass, clay, hard courts, indoors. I mean, he's a more versatile player.
Did you know that our buddy Mike here is a world-class tennis player? Mario Tennis.
I love tennis.
Mario
tennis.
My God.
Mario Tennis, yeah. We championed the last 3 years. No, you do not want me anywhere near a tennis court. No,
All right, yeah.
Hand-eye coordination I can do. Running around the court. No, that will not be a pretty sight. You're going to see.
That gives me an idea, Mike. That gives me an idea. When I come up to Massachusetts or in the New England area,
when is this?
Next month.
Taking us all out to eat.
Well, we
take us all out to eat.
Yeah, don't worry. We're all going to go to McDonald's and get a
well, that's fine.
a nice meal. No, I next month, John. We'll I'll talk to you off the air. I'll let you know the details.
Okay.
But maybe we can film Mike's tennis prowess so we can use it as content on this show. If you are listening. If you're listening and you agree with this, let us know. The audience will speak it into existence. We can have Mike up here on the screen.
Do not make me contact my tennis pro Milos. He will come and he will destroy you. That is the bottom line. He will do that.
A win for Milos.
Yes. Another win for Milos.
Oh man, I was surprised that outside of the.
You know what? I'll agree to that only if John plays with the same Brewline racket that Ethel Kennedy had. If we can do that, if we can recreate that scene, yeah, you might have something, folks.
All right, we'll do that. Actually, you know what? While we're up there, we're going to actually try to recreate as many Seinfeld scenes as we can possibly do. We might have to go shoot on location, though. We might have to take a little mini.
Let's just not do the contest, right?
No.
Oh no.
We don't want that. Although, if we can find a adequate Duncan Meyer, perhaps we can have the race down the middle of the street. But
who's going to take one for the team and spill the cafe latte on their shirt?
Well, I mean, I technically during senior year of high school, way back in the day, I went as Kramer during Celebrity Week.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I walked around, slid into doors, and ate Junior Mints all day. I was really hopped up on sugar.
Yeah. Did you do anything with your hair?
Well, I actually bought a wig, and my mom styled it. So it was because I didn't have the hair to do that. That's a unique. I had a little bit more than I have now. I just got my hair cut, but even then I couldn't even get it anywhere looking. So we bought a wig and put it on and cut it all up and all that stuff, and
nice.
it worked out quite well. But I had these shoes on. They were like dress shoes, but they were super slick. So every classroom I went into, I would like open up the big heavy doors that would like probably crush you if they fell on top of you, and I would just slide in, very Kramer-esque. So I committed to the role. Very very
much like Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis could actually play Kramer, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, well, Bill the Butcher was a little more violent than Kramer, but, he had kind of that outlandish personality. One time I went to a Halloween party. I think I was in college, so it was back in the 80s. I went as Ratso Rizzo from Midnight Cowboys. I mean, that's an obscure reference. I don't know if either of you guys ever saw Midnight Cowboy with Dustin Hoffman and John Boyd. It's an all-time great movie. So I went as Ratso Rizzo. So I had like this black overcoat. I greased my hair. I didn't shave. I had a limp.
Wait.
And no one got it. Everybody's like,
Dustin Hoffman from Star Wars, right?
From Star Wars, yeah.
Okay, all right.
It was right after. It was a few years after Star Wars, starring Dustin Hoffman. But no one knew who the hell I was, which makes it kind of fun. And then another time I went as Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange. That one stood out more. I had the long Johnny, the one-piece Johnny. I put the jock strap on with the cup, and then I had the derby, and I had the giant nose, and I proceeded to go into a writer's house and kick the hell out of them.
I think I mentioned
Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but Jim Carrey as the cable guy during the basketball season I went as. Same year though. I was both these cases I was supposed to work and I got off. So like the Jim Carrey outfit was like a last minute run to Dick's Sporting Goods, find what you can put together. The other one, I ended up wearing a wrestling singlet just because that's all I had. I mean, that was all that was available. And I went as like a wrestler. But the problem was, and I never thought this far ahead, was it was very difficult to go to the bathroom. Not the traditional, hey, you're a male, you can go wherever the hell you want when you're out drinking and partying. It was, I don't know if it was uncomfortable or if it was just just not normal, but I had to go wait in line to go use the bathroom at a party multiple times because, again, it was a singlet. I could have just, I would have had to 3-year-old drop my entire thing down and just sit there and like, hey, all right, I'm taking a pee, like a big kid. No, I had to go wait in line, and it was all females too, because
my only question is, why did you have a singlet to begin with?
It wasn't mine, which might even bring up some more questions, but
there's
whoa, hold on, wait a second.
It was.
Do you think I'm just gonna let this sit?
No. Well, we're gonna have to because we actually have to get off the air. We're cutting the show short.
He brought this up, folks. He knows we're about to go off the air. He brings it up so we don't have to cover it.
It was an emergency, and I told you my friend was a professional wrestler, so he had more than his fair share of these, and it was actually a new one, so there wasn't any sort of my boys crossing paths with his in the same area, just
your boys should stay in their neighborhood.
Exactly. See, we're killing it with these Seinfeld references here at the end. Anyways, it was definitely interesting. And it was cold too, very cold. It was a very cold October that year. Let me tell you.
Wow.
But anyways. I do not kid though. We do have to get off the air pretty early today. So, folks, thank you very much for entertaining us, being entertained by us. Hopefully, if not, you just have a lot of stuff you can call me out on. So, you can do that. Give us a follow on Twitter at FPC Radio Live at Full Press Radio. I am at IGLEN31. Give my man Mike a follow at MDABATEFPC, and of course, give John a follow. It's John Sapp25 or John I Love LeBron James Sapp25. Either or works. They both go to the same place. Have a great day, and we will